If you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
This has been another episode sponsored by Online Horse College. If you haven't had a look at the wide variety of equine-specific accredited courses, then go to onlinehorsecollege.com and I'll see you over there. Our conversation at Horse Chats has been brought to you today by Equitana. Equitana is now celebrating 20 years of bringing Australian horse lovers everything they love, including equine entertainment, exhibition and competition. So join us on the 15th to the 18th of November in the heart of Melbourne to witness a packed program including the main event, full flight, dressage freestyle, all-star The Way of the Horse, and an Australian show jumping record attempt which has been held for almost 39 years, as well as the best equine retail therapy with more shops than Melbourne Central. Equitana.com.au. Nerida Richard's our guest today. Nerida Richard is an independent equine nutritional specialist, and I'd like to talk to her today a bit about her consultation services and hopefully getting some extra educational information from her about feeding horses, and also a little bit of information about a nutritional-based software that she's got. Now, how are you today, Nerida?
I'm really well, thanks, Glenys. How are you?
That's brilliant, Nerida. Nerida, we start off with a favourite quote, and I'm sure you've got one for us today.
Do you know, I was kept awake last night trying to figure out what my favourite quote is. I'm a bit of a quote fan, but I think I've settled on one. I actually wrote it at the end of the acknowledgements in my thesis when I did my PhD, and it's a Pablo Picasso quote. It says, "Everything you can imagine is real." Which could mean a whole bunch of things. And one of the things that makes me think about is the Jetsons from when we were kids, and, you know, them talking into their phone and their watches like phones and stuff. I mean, all that technology now is real. But I guess as a researcher, you know, you need to be quite creative and think outside the box and come up with things that you think that couldn't possibly be the case, but often is when you go looking. So I don't know, I just love it. There's something about that quote that I love. Yes,
I was thinking about the jets, and I can remember, you know, the guy worked about 2 hours and got a sore arm, and you think, oh, yeah, sure, but there really is RSI, and that was before RSI was even the repetitive strain injury was even a problem. But, you know, we laughed saying, oh, how can you work for 2 hours? And
it's funny, you know, like I remember thinking as a kid, how cool would it be if you could talk to someone on the phone and see them at the same time? And now, like, we just take it, you know, my kids think that's how phones work. And, you just take it for granted that that's what we do now. It's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. I think, you know, the world's just ever changing. And part of that is we're learning so much more about horses now than we ever knew. You know, it would be always very good if you had an old bushy around that knew his way around a horse, could help you out with the problem horse and everything. But we've got so much information available now.
Yeah, we do, and it means that we can get so much out of our horses now that we couldn't previously. I read a book, I can't remember what it was called, but it was based in East Gippsland. We used to live out there, so I was interested in the book because of where it was, the area it was written about. But it was about a guy who used to log in the country down there, and he would use horses to pull the logs out of the forest. And, you know, it was really heavy going on the horses. And at one point he bought a farm, and it was about 100, probably miles maybe, away from where the forest was that he was logging, and he rode one of the horses between the two places situated at. And he makes a comment in the book that a horse has only got a couple of those rides in him.
Yep.
And then you rule them, and I think, well, you know, you think about the modern-day endurance horse and the way we feed them and all the technology that goes into that these days, and those things do thousands and thousands of kilometres and are still in really good condition. Yeah. So it just goes to show with what we know and the science that we can apply, how much more we can do for a horse and how much more we can get out of them because of it. Yeah.
And how we notice the little things going wrong. You know, like you ride your horse for a while and all of a sudden they've stopped sweating, you know, and you think, that's something, you know, maybe like you sort of wonder what the problem was that he could only have a a few rides.
You can tell you're a Queenslander saying your horse has stopped sweating.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with stopping sweating, a lot of the time, I deal with quite a few horses that do this, and a lot of the time it's just that they've run out of the electrolyte salts that they need to make sweat. So I say to people, if you're trying to make a cake and the recipe's got flour and eggs in it and you don't have any flour and eggs, and you can't make that cake because you don't have the ingredients to do it. And the ingredients for sweat, that you need the electrolyte minerals, so your sodium chloride, potassium, primarily. So if your horse runs out of those things, he can't make sweat anymore, and they will just stop sweating, which obviously is very dangerous.
Yes, they're very. And then does it take a little while then, once you start feeding and making sure that they've got appropriate electrolytes, for the body to realise that the electrolytes are back in?
If that's all that's causing them, stopping sweating, it should be pretty immediate.
Okay.
They should start sweating again pretty much straight away. There's other causes to that hydrosis, non-sweating. So if they don't start sweating after you give them electrolytes, then either you're not giving them enough or that's not the cause of the problem.
Okay. All right, we haven't even got started yet. We've already got a tip. So, so tell me about when you were in East Gippsland. Did you have horses then? Can you remember a time when you learnt a lesson from a horse, just early on, learned a lesson, what to do, what not to do? Sometimes it's a bit like that.
Horse used to buck me off. I don't know what I did wrong, but he used to buck me off all the time. Oh, gosh. So, yes, I did have horses in East Gippsland. That was in 2003, 2006. But I grew up on a beef cattle farm close to Tamworth in New South Wales. And all of our stock work, because there was really no roads on the property, or not all through all the hill country, so all the stock work was done on horseback. But I was one of these kids that was just horse crazy. I used to ride a stick around when I was a toddler, pretending it was a horse. And I remember the first day I saddled up a horse by myself. I got my saddle and put it up on the front of our one of the Land Rovers on the farm, and then parked the horse beside it, and eventually got it on top of the horse. Goodness knows how I did the girth up or whether it was tight, but it didn't come off. So it must have been okay. But I mean, a lot of lessons, I had a little mare that I'd had for, a long time. I got her when she was 2. What was she, 25? So I'd had her for 23 years. And I just had to put her down a couple of months ago. She had catastrophic colic. It was one of those colics where she was fine. In the evening before fed her, she was harassing me for a hay like she usually does, because she was a potty red little thing that never got over being potty red. And then the next morning it was down on the ground and blood in the belly tap that the vet did and stuff. And, she was old and it was really sad. The vet said she's surgery and I give her no chance. So, it's funny. Like, I sort of struggle. I know one of the questions is, what do you struggle with? But I sort of struggle sometimes in thinking maybe there's something I can do with my life that's more worthwhile than helping people feed horses. And I realised when I had put her down how much horses actually mean to people and how much they help people in life. And so that was probably... that was it was a sad lesson, but it was a really nice lesson. And just going, horses are really, very important to people.
I think one of the best things that a horse person can do is to get a team of people around them who are specialists, who are good at looking after horses. So you might say, it's just feed, but the feed's related to this, which is related to this, which is, like if you think the feed's related to the veterinary, which is related to the fitness, the training, it all comes together when you're looking after horses.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, maybe I say this because I'm a nutritionist, but, nutrition is like the foundation for everything. So if you don't have that right, then it's really hard to do a good job of anything else. It influences behaviour, it influences health. So if you don't have your nutrition right, it's really difficult to train a horse properly or to keep them healthy.
And I think you've got to look too, it's not just the horse industry. The horses are used in such a broader variety. There's, with equine facilitated learning, and there's just so many other areas that horses can be used for, where people may not have had that interaction with horses, and they can then learn more about themselves and learn more about horses.
I know they're amazing. They fascinate me, horses. How I was having a bit of a chuckle to myself the other day, thinking, isn't it funny how people get dogs that look like them? But I think horses are a real reflection of us as people as well. I mean, we don't look like our horses normally, but yeah, like they really do reflect your mood and your personality in a lot of ways.
Yes.
You know, you go rushing up to a horse and all blustery, and that's how the horse would be behaving. As opposed to, you know, much calmer approach. But yeah, they really are like a little window into yourself.
For sure. Thinking about the whole equine research, when did you start to get interested in nutrition? Was it like ongoing or one thing that you said, I'm going to make nutrition what I do?
Yeah, no, you know, there was never a point in my life where, well, I shouldn't say never, but early on I certainly wasn't going, I want to be a nutritionist, but it always fascinated me. So I used to, as a kid, I remember getting, and I cringe now, but, you know, I used to get all sorts of bits and pieces of stuff, lawn clippings, molasses, bits of like ground up favour bean and goodness knows what else we had around for cattle, and make them into, you know, treats and little feeds and stuff for my horse. I wonder. I didn't do it any harm, but I think, oh my goodness, I have no idea what I was doing that thing.
Yep.
And I remember I won a bag of feed once, and I remember sitting and just reading the label and being fascinated by all the vitamins and minerals and the amounts. No idea what they meant,
yes.
Of course, but I was just fascinated by it. And we had my horse at one point, because we didn't supplement at all with my horses when I was growing up, but my horse at one point was with someone else, and she was fed a supplement and came back, and I remember looking at her going, wow, you look amazing. Like, she looks so much better than what she ever did. And linking, I remember making the link then between what she'd been fed and how she looked. And then I came across another horse, a friend of mine's horse who had, I don't know why, but he was anemic and feeling really flat. And I distinctly remember that horse being put on blood, the product blood, and how he picked up and realising, you know, that nutrition had a big influence on him. So all these things, like, this is all, you know, pre-me being sort of 16 years old. And then when I got to uni, I loved science at school and got to uni, and something about nutrition, I just got it. I just understood it. It seemed all very logical to me. And I was awarded a prize in undergrad for animal nutrition. And I wanted to be a dairy nutritionist because it's very challenging, dairy nutrition, and I liked that aspect of it. But just as I was finishing my undergrad, the dairy industry deregulated, and that was kind of the end of that. There was no jobs. So the university said to me, well, would you like to stay on and do a PhD? And they had 3 going. There was a pig nutrition, a ruminant nutrition, and a horse nutrition. So I jumped at the horse nutrition one.
Yeah.
And had 3 of the best years of my life mucking around, feeding
learning
horses
more
and
about
pulling
horses.
blood out of them.
Wow.
I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Yeah. So it was just kind of just all, in a way, happy coincidence that I've ended up doing what I'm doing.
Yep. What's the best thing about doing what you're doing now?
I think I love learning, and I never stop learning. You know, there's every single day I'll find something new. And, you know, I've been doing horse nutrition full-time for 19 years now. And so you think, you know, when you do something that long, surely it's going to get boring. But it just doesn't. So I love it. And there's so much really fascinating science now in gut bacteria. Not a lot on horses yet, but, you know, we're starting to understand that bacteria so much in humans and the impact it has on our health. It's all got to transfer over to horses at some point, but yeah, it fascinates me. It still fascinates me.
All the extra knowledge. There's so many. It used to be that you know, working with horses was just a dead end job, and there's so many jobs with horses within the horse industry. It's just constantly expanding. So, you know, you might say, well, I've been doing this for, I think you said 19 years, but I'm sure that within that time your job has changed and expanded, and, you know, as you're learning new things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're using more and more technology around to do our job, and you know, it changes. And horses don't change. Just our understanding of them changes. So
yeah. So, Nerida, during your career, as an equine nutritionist, have you got someone or a couple of people who've influenced you and helped you in your career?
This is a hard one for me to answer because there's been a lot of people who've influenced me. But I think going back to my PhD days, I studied under Professor James Rowe, who was responsible for developing the product Founder Guard, which was developed a long time ago now. So James very much drove my passion, I guess, for, looking after the hindgut, really, and understanding what's going on in the hindgut and making sure that we're not starches and sugars to the hindgut that will cause acidosis, laminitis, behavioural changes. I still find that predominantly that's one of the biggest messages I give to people is look after your horse's gut, look after your horse's hindgut. And then your horse will be so happier and healthier. So that's a big influence. Mm-hmm. We also worked a lot with Professor Ning Chok, who we were looking at enzymes and a horse's ability to digest nutrients. Simon Bird, also at the university, was a huge influence in developing in vitro assays that worked on to measure digestion. And then post-university, I think one of my biggest influences has been Dr. John Conkey, who's been absolutely gorgeous with me and such a lovely mentor. And I laugh occasionally now because very occasionally John will ring me and ask me something and I'm like, oh, I love this. But I still call him. I still call him when there's something, come up, particularly with, blood work and things when I will need to ask his opinion on something. But, yeah, I'm always very grateful for what he's done for me.
Yes, yeah, and done for a lot of people within the horse industry as well.
Absolutely, yeah, he's an absolute champion. Yeah.
Yep. What about a horse that's, you've talked about your 2-year-old. Has she been the most influential in your life, or have there been other horses?
That was my little mare that I just put down when she was 2. I think definitely the most influential horse I've had in my life would I call it Coco. I was 8 when I got her. So I still remember the morning I walked into the bathroom at home and Dad was in there brushing his ready to go for work. He said, I found you a horse. And I was ecstatic. But looking back as an adult, I think, what were you thinking? Because his horse was like a winning quarter horse that he had bought $40 for her. Yep. And we got her broken in when she was 1. I was riding this horse with a 1-year-old. But it's funny, without knowing what I was doing, I used to spend so much time and essentially we were doing work with it, but I had no idea really what I was doing. I was just playing with her and she'd follow me around and we just created this bond. And that horse used to look after me like you wouldn't believe, never bump my leg on anything. She wouldn't go if there were overhead wires on gully crossings or something. She didn't go underneath him. Yep. Too scared she'd knock me off. Yep. One day I fell off, my whole saddle came off, and I was chasing a weaner at the farm and went around the corner and the saddle just went off the side. We were going out and she had it dead by the time I hit the ground. I was 20. And she stopped dead by the time I hit the ground and was turning around so looked at me going, what are you doing down there? But yeah, it's amazing and beautiful. And yeah, I guess I learnt a lot from her. And she, if you look on the FeedX website, there's a bit of a story about her there, just saying that she probably inspired a lot of my need to know more about horses because I got her a foal and the foal was born, looked perfectly normal but born dead. And I've always wondered since then, she wasn't supplemented, she wasn't fed, she would have been iodine deficient, she would have been selenium copper deficient, all these things that were going on. Her feet were cracked. She was quartering her hugely badly all the time, which, long-term copper and zinc deficiency will do that. So I just, I always just think, if we'd fed her properly, probably that foal would have been okay. Yep. But, there's stillborn deficiency, stillborn foals is quite common. It's sad to look back now going, could have been something so simple that would have saved that little foal. But anyway, she had another foal and I'm still in my ride him foal. Okay. It's nice. It's so much like his mother. Yeah.
Okay. What do you think is your biggest challenge? Thinking of someone else who would like to have a career, who's interested in equine nutrition, what's the biggest challenge of getting into that type of career? And I shouldn't say that. It's getting into the career, but keeping it as a career. Is it because that's sort of been your main thing? Is that possible in bulk, or are there other things that are aligned to that people could say, right, well, if you're interested in this, then this is also available?
Yeah, I mean, so I work primarily in a supplement company. I don't consult to horses. So in that kind of work, the companies are either going to be enough to have their own nutritionist on staff, or they'll use someone as an external consultant. So there's probably not a whole lot of work just in Australia, but there's probably not a whole lot of work in that area.
Yep.
But there's people wanting to the diet consultation and their horse's diet. Food is way for that reason. I talk to people about do a consultation and I can't help you. So we built a tool that they can use themselves. Not everyone wants to do that either. A lot of people want someone who is qualified to actually do a diet for them. So, I mean, just the amount of it, I guess, makes it challenging to get into the industry because there's not a lot of demand for horse nutritionists.
But it's got to be the type of industry then that would continue to grow, because you think about when you were back, and there wasn't the knowledge that horse nutrition was even a thing.
No, yeah, that's right. Even when mid-90s, I saw somebody was not long ago. I was doing diets for. Had given me their feeding programs from the mid-90s, and it was so different as oats and supplements and stuff, because that was how everyone fed back then. So, this whole premix feed and supplement industry is growing essentially in the last 20, 25 years.
Yep.
It's certainly a changing industry. I would say if anyone wants to get really serious about getting into horse nutrition, you are seriously consider doing postgraduate stuff. Doing a master's or a PhD in nutrition, that does make a big difference as far as how employable you are.
And the other thing is too that it's not like you finish or you get a qualification, you finish uni, you do whatever, and all of a sudden the world just wants you. You've got to stay in the industry and do other things to complement your skills and grow on them and do the extra research and learn. And, it's not just you start off here and all of a sudden you're in high demand. It's you start off here and that's just your first step in the pathway, isn't it? You might do a degree or do something in equine nutrition, but then you've got to keep going. You've got to keep going and go and do the extra mile and put yourself out there and learn more and offer more, have more that you can offer to the public or to your employer or whatever.
Yeah, it takes I was having a laugh with my husband the other day saying how little I actually knew when I finished my PhD about feeding horses. There's an awful lot about feeding the right process to make sure it was digestible and how much stuff up their home. But nutrition, vitamin nutrition, amino acids, proteins, all that, nothing. So I remember coming out the first that I had a big company client sending me out for horse stuff and reading about the minerals all the way out and just going, I don't know any of this. So there's always stuff to learn.
Yes,
more to know.
Yeah, I can remember when I first qualified as a coach and thought I knew it all. I knew how to put someone on a 20-metre circle and I knew how to correct diagonals and a few things like that, but I didn't know all the extra stuff, like, you could see a horse is about to explode. You don't have that horse with that horse. That rider's lacking confidence. That you don't see all those things until you've developed the eye, until you've got a lot more experience, and even now, I'm going to keep learning and learning, but I think with everything you start off and you just got to keep learning.
Yeah. And for me, that's the fun of it. Like if I got to the point where I went, something else, and I'd get bored in about 2 days, and that'd be it for me.
Yep.
So,
you've got to have the fun of it. Yeah. Nerida, what about feeding? I know we've sort of talked about the tool, but just general feeding. If you talked the majority of horse owners, what's a big feeding mistake that you think people make?
Well, probably one that I'm trying to get the message out about at the moment is just don't let your horse's stomach empty.
Okay, yes.
Stomach is the first part of the gastrointestinal tract, and they have a single stomach like us, so they're not gastrics. So once we swallow food and the horse swallows food, it goes into the gastric stomach. And people, as people, like we're near to say we'll eat breakfast, lunch and dinner and maybe a couple of little snacks in between, but it's quite uncomfortable for us to have a full stomach and then I'll do something. So I know if I'm going to run, I'll want to eat at least 2 hours before I'm going to go run because I'll get a stitch and it's horrible running with full stomach.
Yep.
And I know Mum always used to say, don't go swimming for half an hour after you've eaten or you get a cramp and sink to the bottom of the pool. So we have all of these, we can feel our own sensations of having a full stomach and know what that feels like and have, this background noise of don't do things on a full stomach. And we tend to translate what works for us over onto our animals. But a horse isn't a meal feeder. A horse is designed to eat for something like 70% of the time. And their stomach functions very different to ours. So our stomach will produce gastric acid only when we're eating. So once we start eating, like when we smell food or actually start eating food, our gastric acid production will be on in our stomach. It will produce acid for a period of time that there's food in there, and once it empties, it just switches off and it will sit there. A horse, because it evolved eating constantly, so it might stop grazing for an hour, 2 hours the most in the heat of the day to have a bit of a rest, but they will graze constantly, and so through evolution they never developed an on-off switch for their gastric acid production. They produce it constantly. Yep. Which means that if you have a horse's stomach empty, they're still secreting all this acid and they're not putting any food in there, it's all in there to buffer it and make it less acidic. And so a horse is standing in the stable or standing on a horse bed or a truck for hours on end, their stomach will be empty, and then they have this big pool of acid sitting in there, and when they eat or even just when they tense up their stomach muscles, they actually squash their stomach and fill the acid into the top of the stomach. And the thing is that it's been smart enough to get the bottom part of the stomach from the acid, but there's a bit of release here because the bottom that stops the acid from burning the stomach wall. But because through evolution they were never without food, generally, their stomach was always full, so they always had this packed forage mat in their stomach to stop the acid from splashing around. Yep. So the top part of the stomach actually doesn't have any protection at all. So you start splashing acid on the part of that stomach and it will just literally burn holes through it called gastric ulcers. Okay. So the whole trick is keep your stomach full. Okay. So I've done a few rides just there. People will leave so that they'll arrive, they'll leave their horses standing around, they'll do a ride for hours and come back, put their horse back on the horse, travel for a couple of hours home, and the horses have nothing to eat the whole time. And I'm sitting there, someone was like, you're just listening to ulcers in their horse's stomach. I am. It kills me to see it because I know what's going on in their stomach. So make sure your horse has got food. Give them some hay when you're gathering them up. Give them hay as soon as you're back from a ride when you're bundling. And, you're at a clinic or something during the break, just something to chew hay, not a hard segment. Give them hay or chaff, something that's fibre. Yep. Do some hay if you can.
That's good. That's good advice for anyone, I think. If you're an equestrian coach or a horse riding instructor, or even if you aspire to be one, have a look at the free video series for horse riding instructors on the Horse Chats website. Go there now, have a look, horsechats.com. What about just thinking about, because you as a consultant and you're independent, you've got your software, okay, so what's that, feedxl.com.au, is it?
feedxl.com.
.com, is it? Yep. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll put that link, if people are more interested in that nutrition-based software, we'll put that on your page, which will be horsechats.com/Nerida Richards, and we'll make sure we put that link on your page. But got a couple of questions here. Now, we've talked a little bit about Cushing's on the show. What sort of nutritional related management can we have for Cushing's?
Yeah, so essentially we treat them like laminated horses. Okay. So the high cortisol levels that they get their body when they've got Cushing's disease, or they call it pituitary pars intermedia dysfunction, so PPID. It's so frustrating they change the name of the condition because it gets confusing. But they, with the high cortisol, they lose some of the regulation of glucose and insulin, and so they tend to get very high insulin levels, which will then be laminitis in the same way that a horse with metabolic syndrome or insulin resistance will get laminitis. But something about the high insulin levels in the blood causes the feet to fall apart.
Yep.
So the whole trick with managing them is to feed them anything that's going to spike their insulin levels, which means feeding them a diet that can be less than 10% starch and sugars. So staying away from any cereal grain or grain products, so milk, bran, pulver, anything like that is the no. Molasses should avoid, of course, because it's sugary. And the ingredients like sugar beet pulp, lupin hulls, lupin, some fells, copper meal, any of those low sugar, low starch products.
Yep.
The horse doesn't need it. A lot of these horses are, depending on how Cushing's, a lot of them are reasonable doers as they get older, instead of start losing muscle and stuff. But just keeping them on a really good forage, a low sugar forage, so no oat and hay, no don't feed ryegrass.
Okay.
Try and stay away from your temperate grasses and more towards your sub grasses. So rhodes is beautiful, lucerne hay is good. You can use teff hay, but don't use just teff hay or the own hay source. Mix it up with nothing else.
Okay.
And if you want to make it really simple, if you're using Feed XL, you just Cushing's disease, and it'll change the feed listing to be color-coded. So anything that's too high in sugars, it'll go red. Anything that may be okay in small amounts is orange, and anything that's safe will be black. That makes it really easy sorting what's okay and what's not.
Okay, good. Good. All right. What about a book? Is there anything that you can recommend just to complement the listeners? You know, if they're listening, I suppose we've got the software there. Is there a book, or are you going to recommend the software just for people to find out a bit more?
Yeah, there is textbooks, but they're not necessarily just easy reading. So we've got heaps of stuff written on feedxl.com, so there's a basic knowledge hub, and there's a bunch of stuff there that's really useful for people, and then combined with actually putting your diet into Feed XL, which is a really simple process. It's actually quite fun doing it, and figuring out what requirements are met and what's not. It's interesting. I've worked with so many horses over the years that have got a multitude of problems, and when I look at their diet, they're missing nutrients all over the place. So usually the first thing I say to the people is, how about we just fix the diet, see what problems are and what problems don't, and often most of the problems just go away when we fix the diet.
Okay, good. All right then, so what are you looking forward to now? Have you got any more research? Have you got anything else, any other software coming up? What have you got holding for the future?
Well, it's Feed XL's 10th birthday this week, so it's been commercially available for 10 years, which seems unbelievable. It seems to have gone so fast. But really we're wanting to, it's got a really lovely following in Australia, and we'd love more horse owners in Australia, but we're really wanting to get it over to so I'm heading over there in April. And going to Equine Affair, which is a little bit like Equitana, big trade show, and I'm meeting up with some people over there, going for a horse ride in Wyoming, which is professional development, really,
Good.
isn't it? But yeah, I mean, it's in an exciting place for us at the moment, Feed XL, and I really, we've gotten in our birthday, part of our birthday week, we said to recommend us on Facebook, and it's so nice going through and seeing, the comments that people have made and how it's helped them, and how much it's them in feeding horses, money-wise, which is lovely. So, yeah, just sort of continuing on with that.
Yep. All right, well, that sounds great. Yeah. So if you were going to just sum up in a couple of sentences your philosophy about feeding horses, what would you say?
Can I do it in words? Keep it simple?
Yes. That's a good one anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I know, and then I start talking and go, oh, it's a little bit complex, isn't it? But, I mean, look, really, horses are forage eaters, so the more you can do with forage in a diet, the better.
Okay.
So if you can feed your horse forage diet, do that, and then just be aware that forages are almost always going to be deficient in copper, zinc, selenium, and iodine, so you have to balance them up. And then if the horse is in work, you're also going to have to balance up a bunch of vitamins and possibly a bit of calcium and phosphorus and stuff. And then bring in feeds. I mean, feeds and grains and things, you can feed them. They're all safe to feed, but just keep it as simple as possible and make sure that you're meeting all your requirements.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Good. I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about some of the, just, like you gave us advice about Cushing's, but just managing nutrition related to different diseases. But can we get you back another time? Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Brilliant. Meanwhile, Nerida, how can people contact you?
Just through FeedXL. So if you go to feedxl.com and email us there, someone will get back to you.
Perfect. All right, then we're looking forward to talking to you again. As always, there's like a million other questions that I could ask you, but I'm happy with what we've got at the moment. And then if we get you back to talk about this in a bit more depth another time, that'd be brilliant. And for people that would like to get Nerida's details, she can be contacted at feedxl.com or just go to horsechats.com/Nerida Richards, or go to horsechats.com and search for Nerida and you'll find those details there. Nerida, thank you. Thank you for talking to us. Thank you for giving us all that extra information, and thanks for your time today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
See you.
Now, if you're still there, you probably know that I'm absolutely passionate about education within the horse industry. That's why I host this podcast. My other venture is Online Horse College. Have a look now at onlinehorsecollege.com and I'll see you over there.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.